this thing on? It's focused now. Focus. Focus the camera. What is happening? Focus. Are you good? I've been away from this for too long. So the last video on this channel, I made a video about how I was plateauing in learning Arabic and how I was going to lock in to get better. And I did lock in and I did get better. In this video, I'm going to tell you what I planned on doing, what actually happened, and why I changed my plan, how it went, and then the results, what I'm able to do now and how much better I am. And then I will tell you what I plan on doing in the future for learning Arabic, and then also just for this channel in general, which is not going to be that much. I'm just going to start making videos again. That's it. But without further ado, let me get into what I planned on doing. So I was evaluating how well I was at Arabic and what was holding me back. And based on everything that I could gather, it seems as though it's vocab. Like, I'm pretty good at grammar. I'm pretty good at being able to tell if something's a noun or if something's a verb, if it's in the past tense or the present tense, na'at wa man'ut, like if something's an adjective, the pronouns, just all of it. I'm pretty solid, and even when I don't understand what a word means, like I see it written down, I can still pick out grammar rules and tell what the grammar is, but I just don't know what it means. So it seems as though the bottleneck, I determined that the bottleneck for my, what is this getting out of focus? I determined that the bottleneck for my studying was vocabulary. So the plan was simple. I wanted to immerse myself in Arabic, MSA, watching stuff and reading stuff, whatever I can get my hands on. Just pick out words from it and keep adding it to my word list and studying them, and keep watching and keep reading and just immerse and grab as much words from immersion. I didn't want to just go to like a list or just try to say in English words that I want to know and then copy what it spits out in Arabic, because I want to make sure that whatever I'm logging, it's something that's actually being used. So I want to grab it from something that's like active. Like I pick out a word from a movie I'm watching or a show I'm watching or a title on a YouTube video that I'm watching, not something that's just on a list somewhere. So that way I know this is actually something that's active and something that's being used. So that's it. The plan was simple. It seems as though what I lack most to comprehend stuff is vocabulary. So do some immersion, lock in, and drastically increase vocabulary over the next 2 months. That was the plan. Why I changed the plan is, well, something, because of what my teacher told me, And by the way, my teacher, he's not fluent in Arabic himself. He just knows more than me, or at least he did know more than me. He himself has a teacher who is actually like knows Arabic, knows MSA, knows all that. Like, that guy is like scholarly level, and he learned some from him. So he's a student, but his teacher, I think, encouraged him to teach other people. So he decided to help out and teach people who don't know as much. So yeah, so he's not like super fluent. He can't speak it, but he just knew way more than me, especially when we first started. Like when we first started, like I didn't know anything, and it was just completely depending on him for stuff. But now it's like, I think I've caught up. I'm not sure if I'm at his level, a little bit past his level, or a little bit before. But before, I really couldn't say anything. But nowadays, sometimes I correct him on stuff. And sometimes he'll like not know what a word means that we're reading about, and I'll know what it means because I went over it before on my own. In the beginning, it was really just like a teacher teaching a student. But nowadays, it's more like studying with a classmate rather than, you know, being taught by a teacher. But anyway, sometimes what he'll do is he'll like say stuff but then like not do it, or like just get excited about something but not really go through. And sometimes he gets sidetracked when we're doing like the lesson. I remember just this past lesson we were doing. The class is for 2 hours. Halfway through, one of the other guys mentioned something about AI and like how he wants to learn about it or something, and how to work it, like ChatGPT and Gemini, Grok, all that stuff. And he went off for like half the class just talking about AI. We didn't even discuss Arabic anymore. Like it was over. It's just about AI. So he'll do stuff like that, and I'm used to it now. But one of the things he said was, "Hey, listen, guys. I want all of us to go through Surah Fatiha, the first surah in the Qur'an. Go through it and learn every vocab word. Just, go over all vocab words in that surah, just those 7 verses, and when we come back to class, we're gonna go over it together." And I was like, hey, that's pretty easy. It's not too bad. I was like, sure. So I did it, and then class started, and he didn't even mention it. We didn't go over any of that. It's like he didn't mention it at all. It's almost like he didn't even say it. I mean, it's fine. I'm used to it now. But then it got me thinking, that's actually not a bad idea. And I've been learning MSA for a while, and I kind of got sidetracked because the whole point of me learning Arabic to begin with was actually not to talk to people. It was just to understand the Qur'an. That was the main point. That's why I even started doing this in the first place, because I wanted to understand what's being said and not just have to go look at a translation later. I want to understand in the moment when it's being said, and also just have a deeper understanding in general. So I was like, I should do this instead, because this was the whole point. And it may seem like a detour, but this is not a detour. This is like anything. Going and learning words like butter and cheese, or shoelace or something in MSA, that's the detour, because that is not Qur'an and this is Qur'an, and I should be focusing more on this anyway. So I decided for the next 2 months, instead of my original plan, I would just go through the first 2 chapters of the first 2 chapters of the Qur'an, Fatiha and Surah Baqarah. And the first one was only 7 verses. That's pretty easy. I did that quickly. But Surah Baqarah is 286 verses, or ayat, and it's not like every single verse is like a sentence. That's not how it works. One verse could have multiple sentences. So yeah, it was gonna be pretty hard. But that is why I changed my original plan, because I was like, I was sick of not being able to understand despite learning Arabic for a long time. But then I realized, like, how could you be upset if you don't even really focus on it that much? You're just focusing on MSA in general, and you don't even focus on it, but you're mad that you can't understand. I shouldn't be mad. I should just focus on it. Then maybe I would understand. And so that is why I changed my strategy. And I said that I would do more of the MSA general stuff later on. So that's why I changed my plan. So here's how, you would better be focused, I swear. Here's how it went. Now, just to be clear, when you go over all the vocab words and everything, it does help with MSA, but there's a lot of stuff in the Qur'an that's just like really old, and no one would even say that. Even in MSA, no one says that. Like, you just wouldn't find it unless someone's talking about the Qur'an. There were some words that are going to be just for the Qur'an and not that useful, but then there are other words that are going to be useful and are used in MSA just more generally. So there is some overlap, just saying. Before I even get into how brutal it was, one of the things that helped me the most was ChatGPT, and it helped me tremendously. Like, it was carrying. I used it to help me understand various meanings of a word, etymology, different forms of it, different particles. And what I also used ChatGPT for was to tell me, I asked it like how much would I understand of the Qur'an if I went through and learned every single vocab word in the first 2 chapters, and it said I would get 80% coverage, which is not the same thing as 80% vocabulary. And let me just explain the difference real quick. If I have 4 words and the 4 words are you and me, go. If you only know 3 out of the 4, how many do you know? 75%, because you know 3 out of 4. But if I said to you, you and me and you and me and you, go, how much of what I said do you understand? 90. How much do you not understand? 10%. So even though you only know 75% of the vocabulary, you understand 90% of what I said, because the words you do know are repeated more often than the words you don't know. Based on ChatGPT's analysis, by the time, if you were to learn every single vocab word in Surah Fatiha and Baqarah, by the time you're done that, you will have around 80% coverage, or you should be able to understand around 80% of what's being said when the Qur'an is recited or when you see it written and when you're reading it, which is enough to follow along if you're proficient with that 80%, which I will get to in the results section. I learned all kinds of like particles, like the lam of emphasis, the aleph or the Hamzah of emphasis. Not Hamzah like my name, Hamzah the letter. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but they're not the same. I learned all kinds of like meanings of words, like this word means this, but it also means this, but it also can mean that. And there was a lot of things I had to clear up because there's a lot of stuff that's like translated, when it's translated into English, it looks the same. Like there are words, like both words are English if you read it in English, but I can see on the page that it's not the same word. It's a different word in Arabic, but it's the same word in English. And then there were some other translations that were just weird. Like I was trying to look at the English translation as well to see how it matches up with the Arabic, and sometimes it was really good and other times it was really not. Like sometimes there were just words that just aren't even there, or like things that like it's almost like you're changing it like so much because it's just so different. I understand trying to put stuff in to help people who speak English understand, but there's like a balance between trying to get the reader to understand and being loyal to the text. And sometimes it was just way too far one direction. I'm like, what is this translation? This like it looks like you're just changing what's being said. Kind of. This translation is crazy. Are you smoking crack? But yeah, anyway, there were also some things that were some grammar rules that were just really crazy. Like there's this I don't even know what it's called, but I learned it. There's this grammar rule where a letter in the word like disappears and gets absorbed into the next word, and you can't see it written down and you can't hear it in speech. Like it's just gone. It's just, the letter is just gone, and you would just have to know that it's there based on the grammar rule, because the next letter after it, the letter it gets absorbed into, that letter takes shadda, it becomes double. So based off of that, you would have to know that the letter was there, and then you would know what the word is, because if the letter isn't there, then you wouldn't know what that word is. Man, I remember just racking my brain, like my fingers started to cramp up in my hands from like typing so much and clicking so much and trying to find all this information. I remember there were times where like my brain just became static and there was just nothing there anymore. It was just like, and I'm just staring into my computer screen. I got like the 100-yard stare, and I'm just like, I don't even know, like, I don't even know. But I kept going because I wanted to understand. I'm curious. I have that like burning desire for knowledge, for this knowledge specifically. And then something else happened. This is just a side thing, but like I actually injured myself. I was at the gym doing like tricep pull downs, and on like this cable machine that like can go all around and adjust, and I had it up and was pulling down. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go to the gym, you would know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you should go to the gym so you can know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I didn't lock in the pin well enough, and I pushed down really hard to do the tricep push downs, and the machine came down and smacked me right on my head. I had to go home after that. I couldn't even finish my workout, and that was a lasting injury, man. I didn't go to the gym for a little bit after that. I'm back in it now, but yeah. But even that couldn't stop me. And I remember doing all this intensive Arabic stuff while my head was throbbing, and I just felt like, why did this have to happen during this time? This is the time I just specifically went dedicated to doing this intensive stuff, and I get this injury. But whatever, it didn't stop me, but it definitely made it worse. In any case, I went through the entire Surah Baqarah, learned about every single word I didn't know, and put every single word into Anki, which is a like flashcard program, if you didn't know. But yeah, so what's the result? When it comes to results, I want to talk about two different ways to categorize results, or I'm going to go through two different ways. The first one is more like clinical official results, like tests I've taken. And then the second one is real world results, like what I've actually been able to observe me being able to do. So let's just go through the first one first. So the clinical results, I took 2 online tests. One of them is called, hold on, I'm looking at my notes. I would cut this out, but I don't care. Took 2 online tests. Oh, okay, ESL. Okay, ESL-languages.com. So this one is really short. If you just type in test Arabic level, test Arabic language level, or something like that, you'll see it pop up. It's really short. It's only 40 questions, and I got a B1/B2 on it. Oh yeah, if you don't know what that is, the CEFR, is that what it's called? I don't know. European Framework for Language Level Learning, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, all that stuff. If you don't know what that is, I will pop that up on the screen right now so you can take a look. Pause, look at it. But basically, A1, A2 is beginner, B1, B2 is intermediate, C1, C2 is advanced. So in the test, I got B1/B2, which is kind of not the best scoring because it's like in between 2 of them. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it's possible to just get one without having a dash the other one. I'm not sure, but that's what I got, B1 to B2. So if you compare that to what you're supposed to be able to do at B1, then there you go. And by the way, that test is only reading, so it doesn't test any other ability. The second test I took was from testyourlanguage.com. This test is way more intensive. It does test listening as well, because they have videos that you listen to and then you answer questions about what you heard. The test gets progressively harder as you go on, and in fact, as you get further into the test, even the questions turn into Arabic, and you have to know Arabic to even know what they're asking you to do. I got a B1.4. Now this is interesting, and honestly it's kind of annoying because I tried to look on the internet to see what this even means, because in the official framework there's no such thing as a B1.4. There's no point anything. It's just B1 and the next one is B2, and then you go into C1 and C2, and yeah. So I don't know what a B1 means. I tried to find it. I couldn't find what it means. I don't know what it means for their website since it's not official. They don't say what it means. I took the test a long time ago. If you look on my channel, my community tab, about 7 months ago, and I got a B1.3. Now I have a B1.4. It doesn't look like that much progress, but I did go way further in the test than I remember going before, because I remember I like recognized some of the questions from the first time I took it 7 months ago, and this time I was getting questions that I've never seen, which means I went way farther, and I did go way farther, but eventually the test just gets so hard because I start to recognize less and less and less, and I just can't figure out stuff through context anymore, so it just breaks apart. I don't know if B1.4 is the last one on their system before B2. I don't know how far that is into B1 according to them, so it's just really difficult. So I don't know, take that as you will. Those are the official clinical results from just 2 random online tests I took. I didn't take any like official tests that you pay for or that you go in person or do stuff like this. So yeah. Moving on to real world progress, what I've actually observed me being able to do. And I'll start with the Qur'an since that's what I was focused on mostly, but then I'll also tell you about just how, if I can't even talk. I'll also tell you about when I watch stuff in MSA like lectures or dubbed stuff in MSA like cartoons or something on Netflix or something like that. So let's start with the Qur'an. First of all, during these 2 months, there are 2 skills I didn't really practice like kind of at all. And that was, one is writing. I've never practiced writing. Maybe one day, I don't think so. I don't know. I just don't really feel like I need it that much. I haven't practiced writing kind of like ever. Maybe when I was a really, young child. Yeah, I do type. Like I type on my phone and I type on the, I text on my phone, type on the keyboard. But just writing with like a pen, I haven't done that. And I don't practice that kind of ever. And then speaking also, no one that I know, my family, friends, nobody knows Arabic, so I can't speak with anybody. there are programs online, but nobody really speaks MSA anyway. So, except for some settings like the news, it's not nowhere. The news, academic settings, religious settings, and also when you're talking to other people who may not understand your dialect, people tend to shift to MSA more. If you know one dialect and you're talking to someone from somewhere else and they don't really understand your dialect, kind of like if you use a lot of slang, if you talk to someone who's not where you're from, you might use more, shift towards standard English more, so that they can understand. But but it's also used in writing a lot, like emails and stuff like this and all that kind of stuff, official stuff, all kinds of writing. So it's still worth it, is what I'm trying to say, and it's not useless. But yeah, there is the dialects, of course. But anyway, I didn't do any speaking. Okay, majority of my practice was reading and some listening. I'll start off with listening since this is the harder one. When it comes to listening to the Qur'an and understanding when it's being recited, this is still difficult for two reasons, right? One of them is just that speaking is difficult in general. Sorry, listening. Did I say speaking? Listening is difficult in general. It's a skill it's the only skill which you can't really like slow down. Like writing, you can choose how fast you write. Reading, you can choose how fast you read. Even speaking, you have to have a certain level of speed, but you can speak slowly. Listening is the only one where you have no control over how fast it goes because someone else is doing it. So you just have to try to keep up as best as you can. So that's number one. Number one is just listening is difficult in general. Number two is that in the Quran, when it's recited, they don't speak normally. They do something called tajweed, which is a way of reciting it. So like, for example, the word tundir, which means you warn. If you said it normally, you would say tundir. But if you say it with tajweed in the Quran, then you'll hear tundir. You see the difference? How it's all like extended, and also the noon is like hidden. There's all kinds of stuff with noon getting hidden with ghunna and stuff like that. But yeah, it just makes it slightly more difficult to understand since it's not said in a normal way. Like imagine if I said you warn them, and then I said you warn them. Like it's not impossible that you would understand. It's just a little bit finicky. You gotta just listen to it more, and I haven't listened to it enough. But then there's a third factor, hidden factor, is that the words that I've learned are still fresh. Like yeah, I should have 80% coverage, but I just added those words. Like I finished last month. Obviously the words that I added when I first started are more solid than the ones I just added recently when I finished up. But a lot of these words are fresh. It's not like they're, deep into my mind and memory. In fact, I'll show you a picture of my word list on the screen from Anki. It like divides words into the app, that Droid key. What is it called? Anki Droid? I don't know. It pairs with the Anki application, and it shows you words that are mature, words that are young plus new plus young, and then my suspended words. My suspended words, by the way, a lot of them are just words that I don't think I should be learning right now. Like they're just too I don't need to know this, like archaeologist or meteorologist or I don't know, xylophone. It's just not that important. I should be learning other stuff first, so I just suspended them. And then about 50 to 60 words in my suspended list are just words that I felt were I knew them too much, and it's just kind of a waste of time to keep reviewing them. But as you can see, I'm trying to remember because I put it on the screen for you right now, but I'm just going off of my memory because I can't see it right now. About a little over 3,000 words are in the mature category, which means I should have them down pat, recognize them, read them, hear them, all that. But then there's about almost 1,000 of them in the young plus new category, and most of these words are the words I just added from going over Surah Baqarah and Al-Fatiha. So these are the words I added from going through the Quran. So they're new, they're fresh, and so it's not like I would understand immediately just because I went through it one time. I need to have some time to study the words I added. But let's go over to reading. So how is reading? Reading is way better and it's way easier, and I'm kind of good at it. So I've tested this before, but basically I can open up just any verse randomly, just flip to a random section in the Qur'an and just start reading it and understand or get the gist of what it's talking about without any English, which is really cool. Man, there used to be reading is just drastically improved. For example, I'll pop this up on the screen, just some Arabic. This used to be confusing to me. Like, there's no way I can read this. This is all just a bunch of squiggly lines. This is all just a bunch of hoogly boogly. I don't even know. But now, if you ask me to read this entire thing and tell you what it means, then I could. So reading is drastically improved. And I find that even the words that are fresh, when I read them, I can remember them better than when I hear them. So yeah, I can basically get the gist of anything. That being said, even with reading, I haven't fully memorized all of the fresh words, so sometimes I still might run into problems. And of course, I still don't have all the vocabulary in the Qur'an, so there's still 20% of coverage that I don't have, and that's a lot more vocabulary to learn. But since I'm studying the words that I added every single day, I suspect that by the time Ramadan comes, which is like a little over a month from now, I think it's March 1st. By that time, I would have a lot of time to go over these words, and so they won't be fresh anymore, and I should be able to follow along in prayer when the imam is reciting by then. So, and then reading obviously will be even more of a piece of cake than it already is by then, because the words won't be fresh anymore. They'll be stale, which is exactly how I like them. Okay, let's move on to MSA in general. So I watched this lecture without subtitles, and I was able to follow along with the gist of what was being said. I couldn't catch every single word or even sentence, but I could follow with like the flow of ideas. And this is what really separates me from before, and this is why I think I've actually really blew past this plateau and made it to another level that I wasn't at before. Because he was talking, the guy in the lecture was talking, and I couldn't understand anything, but I could follow along with what he was saying. And I remember what he was saying even now. First, he was talking about his grandmother and grandfather, then he was talking about his parents, then he was talking about how, okay, now he's born, then he's talking about how his grandmother or his ancestor had this name, and he named his daughter that name. Then another video I was watching of the same series of lectures, he was talking about how his strength was getting these lectures are about the Prophet. His strength was getting reinforced and fortified, and how he was being prepared, what happened right before prophethood. And so I was able to like follow along with the main ideas of it. And that's what really separates not being able to understand, because before I could understand maybe what is being said by like picking out a word here or a word there, but now instead of just getting the gist of what's being said, what is being talked about, I can also get the gist of what is being said about what's being talked about. Like, what are you talking about? What is the subject matter? And what are you saying about what you're talking about? Now I can get the gist of both. And because of that, I'm able to follow along with like the flow of ideas. I don't catch every single word. I don't even catch every single sentence, but I'm able to follow along with the flow of ideas. And so that is really cool, just being able to understand and follow along and not just be completely lost, which is how I felt before in that last video I made. When it comes to content that is just just MSA stuff, but it's not like lectures about the religion or something like that. This is more general stuff. This was hard, but because I don't have like most of the vocabulary that I learned is by going through Surah Baqarah. So it's not by going through just everyday words that you would say or someone would write down or something in MSA. But I should have did more testing, because some of the testing that I did, the lecture guy was talking passionately, but it was a talk. And the video I decided to watch to test out whether I could understand, it was like this Sonic show on Netflix, Sonic Prime, and they were like in the middle of a battle and talking as all this stuff was happening. So I don't know, maybe if I watched something that was more calm, I would be able to understand, but things were like floaty and high stakes and stuff. So maybe that's part of the reason why it was harder to follow along. But it wasn't impossible. Like, I didn't not understand completely anything, but it was harder. And by the way, I had subtitles on. So it was easier for me to follow the lecture with subtitles off than it was for me to follow watching that battle, that cartoon during the battle with subtitles on. So maybe I have the same amount of ability, but I should just watch something that's not as fast paced and see if I can still do it. I didn't do that testing. I probably should have did that, but I didn't. Also, just as a side note, the recommendations for how many words you should know at any given level, like the A1, A2, B1, B2, I find this to be a little bit off. Like I've heard people say, or I've heard the official people, some of them are like, well, actually the official doesn't have a word like list, I think, a number amount of words, I don't know. But there's a lot of people say like, okay, at A1, you need 500 words. At A2, you should know 1,000 words. At B1, you should know 2,000 words. At B2, you should know 4,000 words. Like that's how they do it. And I find that that's not even true at all. Like if you saw earlier my Anki list, I have total a little over 4,000 words that I'm studying actively right now, and I'm just being able to follow along with the gist of things, which is what you should be able to do at B1. So when I had 2,000 words, I definitely couldn't do this, but when I have 4,000 words, now I'm able to follow along with the gist of things, which is what you should be able to do at B1. Like I feel like I'm actually a solid B1 now, whereas before I was kind of like a fake B1. But all that just goes to show is that I think that all of these levels should get a bump up, because they say you should be B1. At B1 you should be 2,000 words. I didn't feel like I was actually truly confidently at a B1 until 4,000, which is like about right now. So yeah, everything they say, just double it. At A1 make it 1,000, A2 make it 2,000, B1 make it 4,000, B2 make it 8,000. Just double it all. And start, instead of starting 500 at A1, start at 1,000 at A1, and then just keep doubling from there. And I think that's a little bit better, because I actually am at B1 now, I think, based on my ability, not based on the test, even though the test also said that, but based on my ability, I feel like I'm actually there. But I also have way more words in my word deck than they recommended for B1, so just throwing it out there. But I am happy because I'm finally able to follow along with stuff, with shows and stuff, and not be completely lost. So that's great, and it certainly makes watching stuff more interesting now, which will help me in the future to learn even more now that I have my foot in the door. Now, last but not least, I only have 10 more minutes on my camera, so let me try to do this quickly. What are my plans for the future? For the Qur'an specifically, I'm just going to keep going over the words I already added. I should have 80% coverage now. I just need to get proficient with the words I have, and then I should be able, by the time Ramadan comes, I should be able to follow along in the prayer and understand when they're saying stuff in Arabic. And then I do plan on going further into the Quran past Baqarah and to do more, but I don't know when I'm going to do that. It's to be determined, because now the focus is going to shift back to just general MSA stuff, not specifically the Quran. So I'm going to shift back to that now. I don't know when I'm going to go back to going through the Quran, but when I go over these 80% of coverage, these vocab words I got from Surah Baqarah and Fatiha, I think that should be enough to follow along, and I should be able to follow along like at least, which is what I wanted. So I'm not going to be lost anymore, is the point, once I get proficient with this stuff. And there's probably some words I'll learn through context from knowing 80% of what's being said, so it'll probably slowly increase. When I go back to doing it specifically, I'm not sure, but I will go back eventually. And speaking of MSA, here is my plan. Now I'm going to do what I originally planned to do before, which was to go over just watch stuff in MSA and read stuff in MSA, and then try to write down every single word that I don't know. Not write down, just add it to my word list so I can study it and add it to Anki. I want to drastically increase my vocabulary. I did that with the Quran, so now I think I'll be able to understand. But now I'm going to do that with just general MSA words, so I can understand more of general MSA stuff. So I'm just going to watch stuff, I'm going to read stuff. I got this thing called language Reactor. It is a browser extension. It's really good, translates stuff that's dubbed from Netflix and I think YouTube, but Netflix for sure. And I can just keep grabbing words from there. It makes up subtitles for you because the subtitles that are actually in Netflix don't even match what's being said for the Arabic, so for the like dub stuff. So yeah, so my plan for that is to just read and watch every time I see a title of something on YouTube. This title, this show, that movie, whatever, just take as much words as I can from everything that I see and keep adding all of it to my word list, keep watching stuff, keep reading stuff, and yeah, I want to drastically increase my vocab, but I'm not going to do it as intensively because I want to have time to do other stuff like make YouTube videos. So that's my plan for going forward with MSA, just to drastically increase vocab. I should reach B2 in maybe a little over 6 months or somewhere around there, I don't know. But I'm gonna drastically increase my vocab, that's the plan. And speaking of the YouTube videos, my plan for YouTube is to make more YouTube videos, that's it. I'm no longer doing this intensive study, so now I have more time to make some YouTube videos, so that's what I'm gonna do. I've been noticing, if you guys all noticed, that YouTube is starting to help out smaller channels. I've been seeing smaller channels, things that have like 5 views, 8 views, 15 views, or 50 views. So that sounds like me, so I gotta get on it. This is the perfect time to start making YouTube videos again. It was the perfect time before, but I was doing intensive study. So, and that was very important to me. But now, I'm gonna get back to making YouTube videos about all the stuff I was making YouTube videos about before, and maybe even some new stuff, who knows. Now, to finish off, I hit that plateau 2 months ago. I talked about it in the video I made, and I said I don't feel comfortable, I don't even know if I said this, but I don't feel comfortable saying that I speak Arabic to anybody because I just put on something and I can't understand, and I just feel like despite all my learning, it was just annoying that I still don't understand stuff. So, do I feel comfortable now telling someone that I speak Arabic? And the answer is yes. Because I finally feel that I'm at a true B1 and that I can follow with the gist of things. That doesn't mean I speak it well. I'm not gonna say I speak Arabic. I'm gonna say I speak a little bit Arabic, okay? I know a little bit of stuff. Yeah, before I didn't feel comfortable saying it at all. Like, I don't know anything. I don't even ask. You ask me if I speak Arabic, the answer is no. The answer is no, and I know nothing. But now, I feel comfortable saying I know some. I speak a little bit, you know, I can speak a little bit of Arabic, you know, it's not too big of a deal. So yeah, I finally feel like I'm not on the outside looking in anymore, because I feel like when you're at A1 and A2, or maybe the very beginning of B1, it feels like you're like a tourist in the language. Like you don't belong here, you know, you don't really understand anything. You're just outside looking in. You can't really engage in it that well because you can't watch movies and shows because you don't know enough to follow along. So you're just outside looking in. But now I finally feel like I'm not outside looking anymore. I'm inside. Maybe I'm not in the deepest levels. I'm not all the way at the top of the building. I'm not all the way, you know, deep inside the vicinity. But I'm in the door, okay? I've walked in the door now. I'm not outside the door anymore. I'm in it. And that has made me very happy. So that is what I did. That is how it went. That is what I plan on doing in the future. And I think that is... And I think that is it. So be sure to like and subscribe and something, I don't know, and all that stuff. And I will see you in the next video. Peace. Now I'm really just